I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who could betray her husband with a fake gay. I'm a 40-year-old woman. I've been married for nearly 15 years. My husband and I have shared so much life together: birthdays, hospital visits, car breakdowns, promotions, losses, lazy Sundays, and loud fights that ended in quiet apologies. On the outside, we looked like a stable couple. Not perfect, but solid. Friends often said we were lucky to have each other. I nodded and smiled when they said it, but inside, I was unsure whether having each other still meant anything. Love, over time, changes. The fire that once burned bright softens into embers. That's natural. But what no one tells you is how lonely it can feel when those embers cool too much and you're still sitting beside someone who used to see you, really see you, but now barely looks up from their phone. My husband isn't a bad man. He's responsible, honest, but he's also always working, always distracted. Somewhere along the way, we stopped connecting. I tried to talk about it, gently at first, but the timing was never right. There was always something more urgent, more pressing: calls, deadlines, clients. Life just moved forward and we drifted, quietly. Then came that Saturday, the day that changed everything. The sun was bright, the air soft. My husband surprised me by suggesting we go for a picnic. At first, I was touched. It felt spontaneous, romantic in a way. Maybe he sensed we needed this. We packed light, sandwiches, a blanket, water bottles, and headed to a popular picnic point outside the city. The drive was filled with light conversation. The kind where you're careful not to bring up anything too deep. I remember watching the trees blur past and feeling hopeful. Maybe today would be different. When we arrived, the place was lively. Families with kids, couples lounging, a group of young men laughing too loudly near the water. It felt nice to be out in nature. We found a quiet spot under a large tree and laid everything out. For a while, it felt good. We laughed. We even held hands for a moment. I watched the way the wind lifted his hair and remembered how much I used to love him, how much I still did, in some buried corner of my heart. But something was still missing, even in that calm. Then I saw him. He was sitting a short distance away, alone, reading a book. He was stylish, composed, had this quiet confidence about him that drew the eye. He looked up once, caught me glancing, and gave a polite smile. I smiled back, not thinking much of it. Later, when my husband went to the car to get something, the man came over. He greeted me gently, in a soft, calm tone. His energy was peaceful, not pushy. We talked, just small talk. I don't remember how it started, only that it felt easy, effortless. I don't know exactly why I assumed he was gay. Maybe it was his body language, his soft voice, or maybe it was just my own projection, this need to believe he was harmless. It made me feel safe, open, unguarded. When my husband returned, the man didn't retreat. Instead, he made friendly conversation with both of us. To my surprise, my husband seemed fine with him sticking around for a bit. There was no jealousy, no suspicion. I guess we both just assumed he wasn't a threat. And then the phone call came. It was from my husband's office. I could tell immediately from his expression that it was serious. He walked away, phone glued to his ear, his expression tense. I sat on the picnic mat alone, watching him pace back and forth like he'd forgotten I was even there. The same way he often forgot I was waiting at home when he stayed late. The same way he didn't notice the sadness in my eyes when I asked if we could spend more time together and he brushed it off with, "Next weekend, I promise." I sat alone for a long time. It was supposed to be our day, our time. But once again, work had taken him from me. That dull ache of being secondary to everything else returned, stronger than ever. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I just sat, letting the anger turn into silence inside me. And in that silence, the man came back. He asked if I was okay. I said yes, of course, the way we all do, but he looked at me like he knew I was lying. He didn't push. He just sat beside me and started talking about the birds, the breeze, the way people come to places like this hoping for connection. I laughed at something he said. It wasn't even funny, but it felt good to laugh. He noticed little things, the way I fidgeted with my ring, the way I sighed without realizing it, and when he spoke, it was as though he saw through the layers I'd built to protect myself. Minutes turned to more. Time became blurred. My husband was still deep in calls, and I was still pretending not to mind. Meanwhile, this stranger was filling a space I didn't even know was empty. He complimented me, not in a flirty way, but in a sincere, soul-level way. He said I had a warm presence, that I looked like someone who gave too much and received too little, that I deserved more. His words hit me harder than I expected. I wanted to disagree, to tell him he didn't know me, but I didn't, because some part of me knew he was right. He leaned in a little closer, not enough to alarm, just enough to feel the tension rise. I should have stopped it. I should have stood up, said I needed space, but I didn't. My heart was beating fast, but not out of fear, out of being noticed. When his hand brushed mine, I didn't move. When he touched my shoulder, I didn't flinch. When he looked at me, really looked at me, I felt a pull I couldn't explain. Or maybe I could, but didn't want to admit. I didn't even fully believe he was gay anymore. Maybe I never really did. Maybe it was just something I told myself to feel safe enough to let him in. Then he kissed me. It was gentle, deliberate, and I let it happen. I kissed him back. I told myself it was a moment, nothing more, that it didn't mean anything, that it wasn't real, but it was. We crossed a line I can never uncross, and more happened, more than I'll ever say aloud. The details don't matter. What matters is that I betrayed my husband. When it was over, I felt empty. I looked over at my husband, still standing far off with his back turned, and I wanted to scream, not because he'd done something wrong, but because I had, and it wasn't his fault. It was mine alone. The man left without a word. He didn't ask for my number. He didn't linger. Maybe he knew this wasn't something either of us could carry. I sat there, cold inside, until my husband finally returned. He smiled and apologized for the interruption. He had no idea what had just happened while he was away, fixing yet another work crisis. We drove home. I was silent the whole way. Since then, I've lived two lives, the one where I'm the same wife, the same woman who makes dinner, kisses him goodnight, asks about his day, and the other, the one where I replay that afternoon in my head over and over, searching for the exact second I lost control, wondering why I let it happen. I've thought about confessing. I've thought about telling him the truth, but I know it would destroy everything, not just the marriage, but the person he believes I am. I'd rather bear this guilt alone than watch him suffer for my weakness. I don't expect anyone to understand. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope that maybe, if someone out there hears this and feels seen, then at least something good can come from it. We all crave connection. We all want to feel wanted, valued, understood, and when those needs go unmet for too long, even the strongest among us can fall. This doesn't excuse what I did, nothing can, but it does explain how I got there. If you're still listening, thank you. Thank you for holding space for this story, even if it made you uncomfortable. Sometimes the most human parts of us are also the most shameful. If you've ever felt invisible in your relationship, I hope you find the courage to speak up before it's too late. If you're someone who's been hurt by betrayal, I'm sorry, truly. And if you're someone who, like me, has made a mistake that you now carry like a stone in your chest, know that you're not alone, and you're not beyond redemption. Thank you for being here. If this story moved you in any way, I'd really appreciate it if you could like this video. It means a lot to know that someone is out there listening. And if you want to hear more stories that explore the real, raw, sometimes painful side of life, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps more than you know.